Square One DSM is an initiative of the Greater Des Moines Partnership that mentors, connects, and enhances the potential for success for entrepreneurs in Greater Des Moines.
I'd like to introduce you to Kina McAllister. Kina is the founder of a company called StemBox, and I met Kina over the phone. When she called me and said, hey, I'm thinking about moving to Des Moines, and I want to talk about entrepreneurial stuff. So Kina, welcome to Startup Stories. Would you tell us a little bit, before we get into your business, a little bit about your background? How did you get to the point of saying, I want to do a startup?
Yeah, so I was living in Seattle, and I attended Seattle University, which is a private Jesuit school. And I was studying general science, and I was focusing on chemistry and biology. And I knew that I really wanted to go into research after I graduated. So I was looking around for research positions, just volunteer stuff where I could go into the lab and wash dishes and just say I'd been there. And it turned out to be really hard, so much harder than I thought it should have been for somebody who was just trying to learn. And it even got to a point where there was a lab where I was told by another professor there was room. And I went to the meeting and I was ready and excited and read all this guy's papers, and I showed up and he forgot about the meeting, and then he also didn't want to see any of my resumes or talk to me about his work. And he just looked at me and said, there's no room in my lab. So he did say okay, well, you're Hispanic, right? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, okay, well, I know a chica that's help another chica out. So depending on my minority status to get me somewhere, which was kind of crazy. So that actually led me to finish and graduate without any research experience, but to instead write a literature-based research paper on gene therapies. And one of the groups that I referenced a lot in my paper was the Kina Lab. And I didn't know they were Seattle-based, but then I found out the PI was giving a talk. So I would go to his talks, several of them, and ask a bunch of really annoying questions. And he remembered that. And so when I asked him finally, I was like, can I wash dishes in your lab? Seriously, lowest level I could do. And he was like, why don't you just come intern with us and learn for 3 months? And then I worked there full time for 2 years after that. So I spent 2 years in Seattle doing gene therapy research for HIV in that lab. And it was the most learning I've ever done. But I made it a point when I started working there to be vigilant and keep my eyes open to the discrepancies between men and women in the workplace, especially in science. So whenever I asked other women about their stories, there was always something, whether it was a pay grade thing or it was somebody said their bangs were distracting during a presentation. There was always something. And then when— Are my bangs? So distracting. And so I asked the men the same question just to be fair, how has it been working for you? Do you notice any difference with the women? And every single one of them was things are good. There's no problems, and all the women had a story for it. And it was kind of crazy to think that people working in the same place could have such different views of how they're treated. So it's a long way to get there. But I had gone through my fair share of, microsexism or overt sexist moments, or just things that didn't make me feel super welcome in the space because I like to get ready, do my hair and makeup. And I was lucky that I had a really strong support system behind me that said, you belong in this space, so keep going. And I realized that not all girls have that, and they need it because it does get hard. It's either at the level where you're choosing between a pink science kit of makeup or one that's super robust, rocket stuff for your brother, or when you get older and you're the only girl in your engineering class. Or when you go a step further and you find out you're making less money than your male counterpart, or you get even further, and then you realize your maternity options suck, and you don't have any choice but to maybe stay and neglect what you're doing at home. Not to simplify this because I don't have a kid, but I know that that's a discussion a lot of women have. So I wanted to make something that started young and followed girls throughout their life, and really buried in them an emotional moment where they had a connection to STEM that was more than just, I did well on this test, or this is really interesting. It was an emotional connection, something exciting for them. So the idea was to put together a box that would ship out every month, so we get the consistency in there. There's actually some on the table, and I had put some on that back table too, so there's extras. The idea was to make sure that they got consistent STEM delivered every day, and it was a variety of things. Because growing up, I don't think kids are exposed enough to different things you can do in STEM that aren't necessarily in a research lab. I think they need to learn about different experiences. Like you could be an artistic designer for different textbooks. You could be a copy editor for a magazine, or you could work on scripts in Hollywood if you have a science background. All of those things are really important, and what we put into the boxes, as well as trying to highlight different women in STEM to find role models. So that's where it came from.
So how'd you start? I mean, you had a Kickstarter, so I'd like you to talk a little bit about Kickstarter.
Yeah, so this is funny, because I was still working in my research lab, and what initially kickstarted all of this was a talk I gave in Seattle. It was like a 5-minute TED-style talk, and I talked about my experience getting into lab, and a lot of people came up to me and said this resonated with them, and they'd experienced something similar. So I wanted to make it actionable. So then the idea for the box came around, and then I started buying pieces in my apartment. So I built boxes at home, and then I realized I don't know anybody with kids who are 7 or 12, because I was 23. And I had to start going to Whole Foods and standing in their aisles and just kind of accosting people like, hey, do you do science after school? Or trying not to be too leading, but what do you do with your kids after school to validate my market and generate some grassroots interest? And so
you really hung out in that.
I really did, and I thought how have I not been paid that yet? Because that's a good Whole Foods. It's like for Amazon. Yeah. Everybody shops there for food. And so that kind of led to creating an email list. So I had a landing page for a while, and we just collected emails. So when I was ready and I had 20-some DNA extraction kits ready to go, I could email people and say, if you want to try these, we're going to have a workshop. And so I wanted to be able to make back what I spent on the workshop, because I had a really meager salary. I was just doing research. And so I sold the tickets for $10 a piece, and I put them online. And the first 2 days, I didn't really sell anything. But I had driven around the city every day after work for a week, and put up flyers in Starbucks, any coffee shop I could find. And there's a ton of those in Seattle.
I was going to say, in Seattle, that's stopping every day.
Yeah, I was really busy. Yeah. And then on the third day, they all just sold out in a day, sold 20 of them. And the workshop was great. We had 20 different girls who were about the age range we were looking for show up. We got to lead them through our workshop, and they loved it. And then we asked for feedback from the parents when they took it home, and what we heard was so encouraging and really validating. And they wanted another one. So we did an alcoholic workshop after that. And then they wanted another one. So I was like, we need to do a Kickstarter and make this an actual company, because more girls need access to this. And did the Kickstarter in July of 2015. I actually took a week off of work when it launched, not before, but the actual day of. Because there was a lot of emailing and a lot of press and a lot of talking to people, and I couldn't do that and give my full attention to my research. So the Kickstarter went really well in some ways in the middle. It was really interesting. I got an email from MTV News, and they were like, oh, we'd love to talk to you and interview you and hear more about the StemBox. And I thought my friends were pranking me. And I was really mad for a second, how rude. But I also remember being home for just a family emergency or something during that time, and having to take interviews and Skype interviews in the closet in my bedroom, because my family's so loud. And they would ruin everything if they heard. So anyways, that all led into Melinda Gates finally hearing about the Kickstarter and tweeting about it. And a tweet from Melinda Gates is crazy. She tweets every day, but when you get on the tweet list, it's pretty cool, because then Bill tweeted it. And we closed the Kickstarter, and we exceeded our goal of 15,000 to 23,000, which looking back now doesn't feel like a lot.
It's pretty good.
It's good for somebody who's never seen that much money in their life, but it was helpful. So we had 6 months lead until we needed to ship out a box. So in January 2016, we shipped 750 paid boxes, but between then, some interesting other developments happened. Initially, I thought me and my friends were going to hang out and eat pizza and build 700 boxes every month. Just not realistic. Looking back at it, don't overdo it. My advisor, Mark, he used to work at Julep, and Julep is a nail company, and they have a subscription box, and so they send out tens of thousands, and he helped them scale to that point. So he reached out through LinkedIn, and again, I was like, who's pulling my thing? Who's messing with me? But I was really paranoid at the beginning. And he actually turned out to be the real deal. And he said, you need to have a fulfillment house. And I was like, if you can get it under like $1.50, then I'll consider it. But it seems really unnecessary. And he goes, sure. So he found me one where I was paying about like $1.20 to get every box built. And I still was insisting on doing some of the fulfillment that I thought was unfair to ask other people to do. So in our first kit, we had a 15 ml tube of isopropyl and a 15 ml tube of DNA extraction buffer, which is just dish soap and water and salt. So I had friends over and we bottled 1,500 of those tubes. And I insisted on capping and sealing every one of them myself. And like by the end of it, my hands were literally bleeding. And then I realized, okay, people are much better at this than I am. They know how to do it without ruining their hands. So then we started working with this fulfillment center, and it changed everything for me in terms of thinking about how feasible and scalable this was. And we shipped out 750K boxes, and Melinda Gates put out a gift guide in December that year, and it had 3 gifts on it. And we were one of the 3. But I didn't know this until my email was stacked with sales, and I was like, what is going on? And like going through all the way to the bottom of like 5 a.m. inbox and seeing an email from Courtney, who's working in her office, and said, we put you on this list, like, congratulations. And I was like, thanks for the heads up. But luckily, we were able to match that in terms of our sales.
Which the lesson from that is read your inbox from the oldest to the newest.
Yeah.
When there's 5,000 emails in there, go to the oldest and figure out what happened. Because there's a reason down the bottom.
That was crazy. That was really exciting though. And so just some crazy things kept happening. What felt crazy to me as a scientist, because I'm used to my work or whatever I do not having any effect on people outside of my lab for years and years. So having stuff happen like this, it felt really surreal and almost like, wow, is this worth it? Like, is it valid praise that we're receiving? Because we haven't even put out a product yet. So
yeah, we were doing this, the scientist that says, no, this isn't valid.
Right.
Anybody that's been around any kind of science or math, it's like, start with, you're wrong.
Yeah.
It's wrong, it's invalid, that doesn't count, that's not good enough feedback. Where the typical entrepreneur is like, somebody loves me, I'm going to kill the world, yay!
Yeah.
So it's a very different perspective. It's been fun to see your perspective of, no,
It's different for sure, because like, I didn't even want to be an entrepreneur, honestly. I feel bad saying that, but when I was living in Seattle, there's such a culture of entrepreneurs and startups, but all of it seemed pretty like flashy and ego boosting from my perspective. Some of the people I had met weren't necessarily the right fit for me to be around, to be inspired to be an entrepreneur. So I was really hesitant. I was like, I have like a real job and like I do research. You know, I look back on all this now and I'm like, what a dum-dum. Like, that was not smart.
I used to live in Seattle too, and there was a lot of people who were in it for the flash,
yeah,
and the PR, and the status, and all the wrong reasons. And, and the ones that were in it for the right reasons never talked.
Right, exactly.
They were the ones that had their heads down working somewhere, which is the thing that's really good.
Yeah, so that was what I was like, my impression of it. And then I started working at this and I felt a lot of passion towards what we could be doing to change girls' lives, like growing up and having a life where science is something you're a part of. And I realized this is what entrepreneurism, like what being an entrepreneur is being really passionate and sacrificing and having an idea that you truly believe in and are willing to like take risks on. And it was when Clorox reached out. Again, I thought this was fake too, but Clorox reached out and they said, we love what you're doing. You know, we'd love to talk about like sponsoring a box or working together and getting one out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like that's crazy, because that's the dream. To have someone else pay for your cool work and send it out to thousands of people. So it actually took a long time to get through that because it's corporate contract work. But when I signed it in October of 2015, I quit my job in research because I decided that if people like Clorox believed in it and Melinda, then clearly they could see something that was going somewhere. And truly I believed in it too, but again, scientist, I needed to have a lot more data behind it. So I quit, and that was really hard. That was a really tough weekend. My parents were like, how could you quit? You had such a good job, like you're gonna be homeless. What about your health insurance? And I was still 23, so I had 3 years.
Which, by the way, her father was from Maine. about her health insurance.
Yeah.
So that hasn't changed because I heard the phone calls. So they were pretty open and wide over there. Like, here's like, yeah, it's okay, it's okay. Yeah.
We finally got it figured out. I'm
And
insured.
And you're insured now. That's because he wasn't going to let go of you until you.
I think, yeah, he was with it. But yeah, so they're very cautious people. And so when I said I was doing this, they were not on board 100% in the beginning. And so some entrepreneurs, when they start their companies, have families to pull money from or friends and family, and that's just not where I came from. We don't have an affluent background. We're lower middle class, and my parents worked regular jobs. My dad was a cop, and now he's a PI. My mom was a secretary. And I just had to kind of bootstrap everything on my own. So any money I made from research went back into the company. That's why Kickstarter felt so important. And from that point, we've just been surviving on sales for the most part. A small loan maybe once, and then a small investment so far. But for the most part, I'd say we're very bootstrapped.
You are very bootstrapped.
Yeah.
So fast forward to when you moved here, you've done over, if I remember the numbers right, over 10,000 boxes.
Yeah, we shipped over 10,000 to date.
And you have a nice number of subscribers today. Why are you in Des Moines?
Yeah, so it was a mix of personal and business. On the business side, what I was looking for was a town that really understood products, because Seattle is in such a tech-heavy space right now. It's not a good place for me.
Software tech.
Yeah.
Soft tech.
Yes. It wasn't a great place for me to finish any of the fundraising we were doing, or to do, there were a lot of people who didn't understand the product we were doing, because they wanted to see scaling like a hockey stick, which is that traditional startup figure people look for. And if you have a product, that's not the most realistic thing, because we can't just have people download our software for free and use it that way. So I ran into that a lot. The other thing was that I was looking for a community that valued families very heavily. And that's not to say Seattle doesn't, but there's a rumor that Seattle has more dogs than kids under the age of 10. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. So even just being in the area, it was hard to find really concentrated groups of just family-friendly focused kids activities. They're there, but they're hard to crack into as well.
Well, it's you have to understand, in Seattle, you have a lot of lower middle class where everybody's just busting and trying to get through the day. And then you have a lot of very upper class, middle, and way upper, where the kids are in daycare, au pair, permanently.
Yeah.
The parents work. I mean, the startup culture in the Valley, and in Seattle especially, is you work all day, you network party all night, and then you do it again. So you see your kids on the weekend. And so it's not a let's sit down together and do a science experiment after dinner kind of culture, which here, good luck trying to do an event after dinner. Nobody shows up because everybody wants to go home. We used to try to do events after work. It's like, forget it. If it's a beer, go home. They're not going to sit around because they want to go home to their families. So it's a very different, Seattle's a very different culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then, so we were looking at those things. I mean, when I say we, I mean sorry. It's like a royal we. But so I was looking at those things and trying to figure out, because my partner was also looking at medical programs, and so the choices were things like New York, Michigan, Iowa, and some other places. But out of all of those, we kept looking back at Des Moines because it felt like this was a better place. There was a city, there was startup culture happening in the area. They were really supportive of local business. And then there's family community. There's a lot of product. These are people who have tractors built in their state, who grow corn. They understand a physical good. So with all that in mind, I ended up getting in touch with, I forget his name, sorry, but he introduced me to you. Okay. And then we talked, and then I learned more about it, and that kind of solidified even further. This is the place where we should move. So we visited in June. And I'd never really been to the Midwest. I was in Minneapolis for 48 hours once, and then
that long.
Yeah, that was an interesting trip too. And so I didn't have, beyond what I had known about Des Moines, startup life, family life, culture there, I don't know anything about the Midwest, to be quite honest. True. I grew up in Las Vegas, and then moved to Seattle, so I'm West Coast, and then that's it. So moving here has been really awesome, though. A really good surprise, because I had no expectations. I didn't set myself up for anything. I just said, we're gonna go, I'm gonna be busy working, So that's all that matters. And then I got here and everybody was so altruistic and helpful and just genuinely, like, they just wanted to see this, what I feel so far, do well. Because it's in Iowa now. And I want to be a part of Iowa. And I want to be part of something that they're really proud of. So that's kind of the feeling I've gotten. Which is not to say, again, Seattle doesn't do that. But in Seattle, it feels a lot more cutthroat. So somebody will call you and say, like, let's get coffee or get dinner. And they're sometimes, it's happened a few times, they're just trying to figure out your numbers or figure out where you are if it's a similar product, something like that.
No, you're being very polite. Seattle is cutthroat. Very cutthroat. It's very tough. And I think people who haven't been out there, it's like anything else, if you haven't experienced, you don't get it. And it's tough.
Yeah, I would have advisors who would like say they want to advise me and then work on certain projects with me for an amount of time and then eventually say, cool, so like let's put me on your like payroll down here. And I was like, I can't afford that. Like, have you seen our things? So yeah, there was a lot of that happening too. People who would just like spend a lot of your time and then eventually want your money. And it was kind of hard to say no.
So where's the business going then?
Right now we're trying to grow. The company, I think we've established our routine in terms of every month getting out of the box and every 3 months having the next one ready idea. And so the next place I'd like to go is to see it grow. Because this is something that when little girls get it, they get excited to see the box in the mail, number one. And number two, they actually get the experiment and they get to work through something they've never done before. And now they're like an expert in their house on that one subject, which is super cool to see. So if you could get this out to more girls and have them having this ownership of a project in their house and teaching it to their brothers and sisters and their friends.
And their parents.
Yes, we have lots of kids teach it to their parents. So kids will they'll film videos of them doing the experiment and then send it to me and be like, oh, like I did this for my science fair or PowerPoints. It's really inspiring. But I want to see more of that happening because right now, as an entrepreneur, I know my weakness is marketing. And that's something I'm trying to pay more attention to. So I've been a lot more analytical about it lately and just verifying our data. But where I need help, I think, moving forward is really just getting the word out to larger groups and populations. Because when people hear of us, like, it goes well.
Pretty easy.
Yeah, we don't have problems selling to people who finally hear about us. It's the figuring out which niche are we supposed to be focusing on right now. And all these different tactics that are out there. It's like a whole job, which is why people have marketing jobs.
It's why it's so much after more. You made some good connections in the marketing space, but you've also made some good connections in fulfillment. Did you move your fulfillment here?
I did, so that's been a fun journey too. My fulfillment center back in Seattle was wonderful. It's called SCAC, which is the worst acronym. It stands for South King County Activity Center. And they employ disabled adults.
Oh, nice.
So they would train them and they'd go through kitting processes and then they find employment with other companies in Seattle like Boeing or Amazon. And when I moved here, I was looking for something similar. It didn't have anything quite that that focus. But I ended up finding UFC, which is United Fulfillment Center, and they're on the 235-80 junction. And they're awesome. Like, they're where I'm going to start fulfilling now, and their software is so much more robust than what I've been using, so it's so much easier because every single item I put in has a SKU, and it's way easier because I used to have to go in and hand count my inventory every so often and say, like, how much do I have of this? Okay, how many extra boxes could I make? Stuff like that. So I'm really excited to get this new place. It's interesting. It's definitely, like, we're going to do our first box with them next month. It's our kite box. So it'll be a journey to see how that works out.
So, I'll open it up for questions from the rest of you here in just a couple minutes. How has the STEM type ecosystem responded to you? I mean, you've done some things with the Science Center and the zoo, and how are people, do they accept? Are they okay with it? Are they pushback? What have you seen?
Oh, they love it. Yeah. Not to be like too excited about it, but yeah.
It's good to be excited about your stuff.
Yeah.
That's okay.
No, I think we get tons of support from really cool STEM initiatives. We've worked with a couple of groups to get them into our boxes to spread their word and what they're doing. We've worked with groups like the Bug Chicks. We have their box out. We worked with them to get out an entomology pinning kit so girls could learn how to pin like an entomologist and take away stigmas from bugs. We've done the Maker Fair here. We did the zoo last night with the STEM zoo night. Whenever we hear about anything with STEM in it, I try to get into it as fast as I can, which usually leads me to running out of business cards like I am tonight, sorry. And
we can get you more.
Yeah.
There's plenty of printing places in the morning.
Yeah, that's another thing. I love printing places. This is a random fun fact. But yeah, so it's been good. I think everybody's been super receptive to it, very supportive. We get lots of inbound requests from people, and I try to accommodate things as much as I can, being a small, poor startup. So
Small, poor startup, that sounds right. Questions for Kina?
So did you say what the price to consumer is?
yeah, I did not say that. It's $30 a month about, and then that's the month-to-month-to-month subscription. But you can bundle at 3, 6, or 12 months, and that brings it down to as low as 25.
So all the young girls you know that need a Christmas present this year?
Yeah, Q4 is crazy for us.
Yeah, this is her big quarter coming up.
Yeah.
Did I pick up that the age range is 7 to 12?
It is.
Age appropriate. Have you ever considered doing a younger age range as a second option?
A younger age range.
No, of course, yeah, I have. So I knew when I started that 7 to 12 was really wide, and that there's a lot of learning curves that happen in there. And so when I was designing this kit, I knew that I wanted to make fulfillment on this as easy as possible to start. So I tried my best to do in the box a very basic age level, like 7. A 7-year-old would have the motor skills required to do this without a parent. And then from there, they could take it to the next step. So maybe in the protocol, there's something that says, try doing this, or try adding this variable, or try doing something different. And then from there, kids who are like 12 or 13, if they're still interested in learning more, taking them to our website for box resources, so they can look at different outside links that take them to more sophisticated places. But yes, like having a younger age group, probably somewhere like, I think 5 to 8 would be the group I'm thinking, and then maybe even as young as 3 or 5, because there's parents who ask me like,
I've got a 5 and a 4-year-old, and I would, to your point earlier, I mean, we definitely are a culture that we love to sit and do activities with our kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's on my list of to do as part of the growing.
By the way, when you leave here today, go on her website and look at the photos that have been sent in by the girls and the parents. There's one in particular that every time I see it, it just lights up my day. That girl's expression is just,
it's really cute.
It's pretty big.
I can try to do it, it's like,
it's completely over the top. It's completely
yeah,
over the
it's
top.
really good.
That is a future scientist.
Yeah, she was great.
Questions? Yeah?
Can I ask you, you said when you were doing your research, when you were thinking about writing, what did you use to do your research that kind of helped you hone in on Iowa or Des Moines for that?
So I actually looked at a lot of, it kind of started whenever Des Moines was on our radar at first. We would look through, like, Newsweek's top 10 places to live, stuff like that. And so Des Moines kept cropping up on those lists, which is initially.
Hey, Kyle, tell Jay about it. Do you know how much time and partnerships spent trying to get on the list?
This is validation.
You just made our year.
That's where we got it started picking up there, and I was like, we kept emailing it back to each other, like, oh hey, Des Moines, so popular. And then from there, just kind of like going to Wikipedia and learning about like median income, like the cost of living, what kind of businesses reside in the state, different demographics. So there's a lot of like data-based research that we use from Wikipedia. Like that was my main resource.
Keep in mind, you got a couple scientists here. Her and her partner are like serious science nerds.
Yeah,
so.
He's a DMU, so he was.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
Yeah, so that was kind of what we looked at to make the final decision. And then, I mean, also just talking to people. I set up quite a few phone calls before I moved here to talk to different people about what was going on in the area. And even if we were looking for housing, we'd call somebody or like a landlord and they'd be like, oh, so what brings you out? And then I tell them and they go off. Like they have lots to tell you about Des Moines, which is great. So like I'm used to talking to a landlord on a phone call for like, I don't know, like 3 minutes. Like, is it available? Okay, see you at 5. But like whenever I called someone from Des Moines to get a place to live, they had like a 30-minute phone call about Des Moines. So
we trained them well.
So did Des Moines enter your radar then because of the med school? Or
yeah, it was that kind of like, so for me, I've always been really, really like careful about you know, decisions I make regarding my business. Like, I wouldn't move my company for my partner just because he's going to med school. I love him, he's great, but he's not like, nobody's that great where I'd like give up this wonderful thing. Sorry.
You want to say
but like, I'm a very independent person, and I wouldn't do any, like, I've lived on my own in Seattle for 7 years. I have family there, so I'm totally comfortable with doing things that are uncomfortable. And so for me, moving to Des Moines was definitely like 90% business, and like, oh hey, Marcus is gonna be here too. Like, that was pretty much like the ratio, it was a perfect time though. Like, since we moved here, things have been great for StemBox, and like, I barely see him. He's like in school, and that's good. So, because I have a lot to do, and I'm really busy, so even moving here, it's been great for my productivity. I think I work like 50% more, like every day, which is crazy. So it's great, because in Seattle too, it's like so noisy. People are always like, come to this cool startup thing, like come to cigars and startups, and I'm like, that smells, like, don't want that. So, yeah.
It's true, we balance the community. I was talking to someone last night who was deep in a startup right now, and they were lamenting that they hadn't been involved in the community because they've been heads down in a startup. I'm like, no, you don't get it. That's what you're supposed to do. The community's great, love community, but you gotta build your startup. That's what matters, especially once you start taking outside money and you're responsible to your investors. It's like, good to see you to networking. Why aren't you working on your business?
Yeah.
It's, you know, it's really, that is a startup culture.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yes, you got it.
Get the yellow.
Oh.
Sorry. I just thought.
Have you worked with any schools? Like, have you gone into schools to try to get like subscriptions through them, or do you go in and do programs?
So I would love to work with schools, and it's something I've investigated and spent quite a bit of time on. And at one point, I even had a call list, and I would cold call a bunch of schools. And one of the things that I learned is that, at least in Seattle, I'm not sure what's going on in Des Moines, but in Seattle, it's very bureaucratic. So trying to figure out who you're supposed to talk to is kind of a nightmare. I would call like different schools in the same district, and people would say, talk to the science teacher, talk to the principal, talk to the superintendent, like 10 different people, PTAs. Like, it's a crazy infrastructure to try and get into. And so being a one-person company right now and trying to make sure that my subscription product is the best it can be for who I have as a customer, I didn't see that as necessarily the best way to spend my time until I got another person on board who could help me with it. Because it's definitely something we should do. Kids in schools, like especially underserved schools who could write grants to get access to our boxes would really benefit. But it's something that I'm physically constrained by time right now that I can't afford.
You know, it's funny because I advise a lot of startups where they have a product that theoretically can be sold to education, and I will normally say run away because they're so hard to work with. And Lana should have a really big smile on her face right now. Lana Fox is in the back of the room. She owns a startup that sells to schools now. And it was a big pivot. And I remember telling her about a year ago, run away, don't do that. And then she went to a trade show and somebody signed a contract on the trade show floor and the pivot happened. So I mean, it's just be careful with the bureaucracy of schools and understand that they're also very different. Where I lived, the county I lived in Seattle, King County, 40% of the school's budget had to be voted on by the voters every year. So year to year to year, up to 40% of the education budget could get wiped out. And in our school district, 1 year it happened. The local said, no, we want to fund education. And 40% of the budget disappeared, massive layoffs, and the schools down the road were fine. So it's just, versus here where the funding's more stable, it's hard to have a consistent market. You need to build a company. Now, if you want to expand in those markets, it's different. But you're really looking for a market that has some continuity, that's the same in Texas that it is in Pennsylvania, that it is in Washington. So I would just tell you, look for the continuity. This K-12 school, there is no continuity about K-12 school in the United States.
Yeah.
Good question.
I don't know if you recall, we visited a couple of weeks ago, or last month maybe here.
Yeah, I do remember.
And was very excited to hear about your idea. And, you know, Iowa is really great for STEM. And I think I mentioned that to you, and I would imagine that over time, in time, people will find you. But I'd like to just mention that the governor, our current governor, is huge into STEM. Maybe you should write to the governor's office.
We actually have reached out to the governor's office, and this close to her being here.
Really?
To come today.
She was going to come today for schedule. Just, I mean, she is into it. She wanted to be here, and literally half past. I got a note last night saying she can't come.
STEM Advisory Council.
That's what I've heard a lot. And I did get a welcome tweet from her on Friday. She said, "Welcome to Iowa, Kina." I felt really like Iowa famous for
Probably because we've been.
Yeah.
She's a little busy, right?
Yeah.
She just became the governor. She's got to run for re-election real soon, and the budget's down. And,
Yeah. No, it's cool.
You're absolutely right. It is a huge issue. The guy that runs the STEM initiative for the state of Iowa's name is Jeff Weld, and he's up at UNI as professor in UNI. So I know him very, very well because he lived across the hall from me in college. So once she's settled in just a little bit, she's going to meet Jeff. We're trying to let her get her feet down the ground. You've been here what?
9 weeks.
9 weeks. So a little quick, but yeah, I agree with you.
I think you'll find in Iowa, though, access. I think I moved here from Dallas, Texas about 12 years ago, and never thought I'd stay this long. But I think, you know, besides being a great place to grow your business, a great place for your consumer base right now, access to the people who will help you progress. And we call it Iowa Nice, which you, I think, explained that everybody wanted you to succeed. Now you're in Iowa, you we want to see you do well. So
they're really helpful at Sam's Club too.
Are they?
Yeah.
Good way.
So we were at Sam's Club once, me and my boyfriend, we were just talking to each other, like, where's the toilet paper? And some guy comes around the corner, he's like, "You're looking for toilet paper?" And he's like,
did he even work there?
no, he didn't.
Yeah, this is the, he didn't work there.
This one right here is under construction.
My wife is like this. We're in the grocery store one night. There's a lady, probably in her 70s, standing there looking very confused. My wife walks up and says, "Can I help you?"
Yep.
You know, she's like, just having a bad day. It's like, "I'm going to help you over here." So, yeah.
So nice.
Yeah, it's not Seattle.
Everybody like looks in the ground, like you don't make eye contact, because if you make eye contact, it's serious.
It gets predatory.
Yeah.
Other questions? Yeah.
Where are most of your clients at or customers?
Most of them are in Washington, California, New York, but I think that has a lot to do with population. That's just based on our sales data to date. We've seen some numbers in Texas because we've attended some South by Southwest events in the past years. So those ones.
And you really haven't done any pro marketing. I mean, that's the thing I would say is you understand that besides a Kickstarter, and Bill and Melinda didn't hurt,
No.
right? And MTV, but I mean, you haven't had a we're talking a lot about a proper marketing program and a very analytical marketing program, because marketing is the next thing. It's just left with science. When it comes to analysis, it's absolutely an analysis. And that's part of what she's been working on, and has had a bunch of marketing types here in town get pretty. It's a couple of female marketing types really get excited about this. Not just because they're female, but I'm just seriously. Just
no, yeah,
digging in.
I'm meeting with people.
You had a couple of people say, "Well, let's meet every month and I'll help you out." And it's like,
One of the fun things that I've learned, at least marketing-wise, so we've been putting tests out on Facebook, and I think it's something that needs more optimization, learning about to make it more efficient and cost-effective. But I was getting really frustrated, so I was like, you know, everybody says AdWords, so I'm gonna go play with AdWords. And Lana actually told me about something called Spy Fu. I'm telling you my secret sauce right now, but it's only like 2 sales. But you can go and see like what your competitors' keywords are and what they're bidding on it. And that was crazy because I have 2 competitors in the space that I like keep a really close eye on, and I was like, tell me what they're bidding. So I actually went and I bid on like their keywords and actually their names, and I've generated a couple, not just 2, but like since then a couple more sales off of those keywords. So being able to track your data like back to things like on a very like numbers-based method is so gratifying. Like I think I told you when it happened, I was like, I made a sale off of like Kiwi Crate or something, and it was really exciting. So learning more about it.
What's your retention like? So if someone signs up, how they get their monthly box, but how long are they sticking around for?
They stick around for 7 months on average. Yeah, that's a pretty good number for me to see, because that means our average lifetime is about $200 a person. And it gives us enough room like to go through 7 boxes with them. And usually the reason they stop is like, the main reasons I get are, number 1, it was a gift. I bought it for someone outside of my house. And number 2, we have a backlog. So they're piling up and we need to get through all of them. We've been really busy with like soccer and stuff. So that's mostly the reason we see churn.
So how did you decide on your frequency? So it's monthly, bi-monthly, quarterly?
Right, so a lot of people, when I started, were asking the same thing, like, why monthly? That sounds so hard. It sounds like a lot of work, and it is. But I think it's well worth it because we do have kids, like most of the kids in our program, I think, are just like rabid. The second they get it, they go through it, they're done, they're like, okay, when's the next one? Because like, if it's like, it's just crazy like how they go through it. So for the most part, for me, a monthly experiment where it took like a weekend to do was the best method to keep girls engaged and to not forget about it, because like, you have so many crappy things happen to you in a month. It's one nice thing at least. So that's how I think about it. And I could subscribe to other subscription boxes like BarkBox, I've tried Julep, Blue Apron, and I really liked the monthly boxes because there are certain themes you can hit, there's fun stuff you can do around that, and then having the recurring revenue on a really like expected basis was super nice. So there are a couple of things, but
and I think if you get bigger, I mean, there's a lot of things you would naturally, as a marketer, start thinking about doing, like going back to the gifter and asking the gift again, going to the parent. A lot of that just hasn't been implemented. So it's, again, she's been a single person organization doing everything herself, including fulfillment for a while, which does not have a return on investment like marketing does. So it's really just that, how do you scale? And if you look at, without getting the numbers, the 7 months doesn't seem all that long, but when you look at the financials on 7 months, it's quite good. If you look at the cost of acquisition, the cost of the product, the revenue return, it's very, very good business. It's just, and there are a lot of young girls. When she showed the population at a pitch the other night, keep in mind there's a lot of new people entering this market every year, and the demand by parents for educating their girls in STEM is going up every year. So it's a growing, vibrant, interested market.
Yeah, so are you going to continue to bootstrap, or are you trying to raise capital to bring more people on so you can, sort of catch fire while you're hot, instead of slow burn, and you may be overtaken by someone who put money into it?
Correct. I'll talk about this, right?
You're allowed.
Okay.
Just don't get into the details.
Okay. Yeah, we are fundraising. The fundraising for me is really important because, number one, I recognize that companies like Amazon have initiatives underway like the STEM Club in Amazon. And if they wanted to, they could put tons of money into it and just like buy the most expensive gifts for kids, which is different from the curation we do. But also I really want to start, expanding our marketing efforts, growing the company, and I want to start hiring people to help me. So I can't do this alone forever. I've been doing it alone for 2 years, and I don't think I'm burnt out, but I understand how people get burnt out. So I think I'm very good at taking time for myself.
Well, you've established, you have a very established ability to take product to market. Mm-hmm. Some startups get the marketing in front of the ability to fulfill. Most Kickstarters don't fail on goal, they fail on fulfillment. And the fact that she's been going for a year now, fulfilling boxes for a year, ups and downs, lefts and rights and learnings on that, and now we're at a point where if you call them and said with 90 days notice, I'm going to do 5 times as many boxes, they'd be like, great, bring it. So that's a big deal.
One thing that always really bothered me about fundraising in Seattle would be like, it happens in Silicon Valley too, but it's the difference between people who like walk into a room and they say, I have this great idea and I need, $1 million to do it. And if it's a cool idea to people, they're like, sign me up. And that's enough because they have a team. And I see that like being the issue with me. But when I was in Seattle and I'd go pitch, I'd be like, I have 500 recurring customers, we've done X amount in revenue, we have a product, we have customers, like, let's go, I can do more with more people. They'd always say, no, not enough traction. And it's like, I've been doing this alone for so long, how is this not enough for you? Like, if you add another me, I promise we can do X amount more. So that's always been the main frustration I felt when I'm fundraising, is that people always move the goalpost, is how it felt. So you do one thing and then they say, not enough, you have to do this before we'll give you money. And to me, that was
is a nasty way of not saying no. Right? Because what they're really saying is you're a product company and you're in a market I don't care about. And it is the sad truth. It's not just in Seattle, it happens here. The best answer you can give is yes. The next best answer you can give, whether you're selling or raising funds, is no. And here's why. And sometimes it's like, I don't understand your market. I have no value add to you. I can't help you. There's no reason for me to invest in you. But it's the downside of not saying no. You're killing people when you say maybe, or it's the worst thing you can do to an entrepreneur. Sorry, I got off my soapbox, but if you ask me what could I change about Iowa right now, is stop being so damn nice. It's no, say no. Park your Iowa nice and be honest for once.
Yeah.
Because you know how much money and time you spent chasing?
Yeah.
If you keep saying maybe to me, I'm going to chase you until you say no. I'm not sure, I'm going to do it. So every time you say, don't say yes, but won't say no, it costs me money and time and energy. So that's an attitude that we have to change here now.
Yeah, it happens a lot in Seattle. It's really frustrating.
Because it happens there. It's not just Iowa.
Yeah.
People don't like to tell people no. Another question?
So I guess to continue on, you can continue to talk about it. So you are raising capital, and you're adding a person, or you're going to do this, or what are your plans for expansion after that?
So my first hire would probably be a fulfillment manager and director, because I feel like I need somebody who can do things that aren't necessarily just about girls in STEM. And that's a position where I feel like I could take hours off of my work week and focus more on building out different boxes and working on different marketing campaigns. And that's just a part of my day that I can just be like, please do this. So that would be the first person, and the second person would be a marketing director to help grow it. So then as we're growing, we have a fulfillment person to kind of handle that behind the scenes, and then a marketing person to push out further. So those would be my first 2 hires, and then the rest of a lot of the money would go into some of those paid marketing avenues. And one of the interesting things that I've seen work for my company is that we do really well with press. So anytime an article comes out or we're on TV or something happens, I can guarantee we're going to make at least $500 off of it. That's happened every time, and in the holidays when it happens in Seattle, our sales that day are crazy. So that's another thing I think we really need to start working on too, is working either with an internal PR assistant or an external one, because it has so much, it helps us so much when we get validity from different marketing sources.
People want to tell that story too.
It's a good story, it's a true one, it's a very sincere story, and it's honest, and it used to be embarrassing for me to tell it, because I felt like maybe I sounded like I was whiny or something like that, which I think a lot of women go through, and they worry that what they're saying happened to them is something about them whining. Because you can always point to some other variable and say well, what about this? But I've since embraced it, and I've learned that this story holds a lot of power for other women who have gone through similar things and don't like to talk about it. So yeah, I think from a PR standpoint, our story is very useful and very good.
Well, there's more and more data coming out, hard data, that says if you get women and boys and girls both, but if you get them between 8 and 12, there's some science it can stick. If you go after the teen years, during 13, 14, 15, it's over. Their interest area has been selected. We saw this, I worked with TAI on their Hyperstream program when it was first piloted. And I did every grade from 5 to 10. I pitched every grade, and I could see it in the classroom. By 9th or 10th grade, forget it. It was done. They were so set in their ways as beings. And so I think that there's a lot of data coming out now that says, look, if you catch them young, they may say no. I mean, my son is the most non-STEM kid you've ever met in your life. Forget it, it's not his thing. But he got exposed to it early and found out early for himself. And I think that's the key thing is for all these young men and women, young boys and girls both, do I even like it? Hey, a lot of boys get shoved into sports. They may not want to be in sports. So it's the same kind of stereotyping that we do to people. So I think that your market can only grow. We have time for about one more question, we're going to wrap it up. No?
Any plans to expand to young men?
Yeah, I love answering this and talking about boys in our company. So at the moment, the way I built our boxes, I would consider them very physically gender neutral. So if you look through them, you don't notice anything. But
I have a boy and a girl, so I'm like, okay.
Yeah, no, I feel this. I totally understand the need for this, and actually, in recent months, I've actually thought more about boys and the role they play than girls pursuing STEM. And for me, what we do is we focus really hard on marketing and copy and all of that rhetoric going to girls because they're an underserved population. And if a scale is like this, if you add equal amounts to both sides, it's still going to do this. But we need to add more girls to make it more even. And so I do think there's a time in the future where we'll end up at a scale that looks like this. and we will be able to open our market to boys and girls. But right now is not the time to do that. But when boys do get our boxes, we do have boys subscribe. It's been interesting to hear parents email me and say, hey, like, my son's been reading your protocols and it really upsets him when he reads female pronouns. And that's like a real email I've gotten. And my answer to that's been like, I'm sorry he feels that way, but this is like a great time for him to learn what it's like to be a girl and read male pronouns in everything she does. So in that way, like, I look at our boxes as being very inclusive and very like good at mentoring boys what it's like to live in a world where women are role models too. Because I think
see that it's there for women as well.
Yeah, so making sure that boys understand our message that like girls have a place here, girls can be role models and leaders in your space, and that's very normal. Is something that we're also working on.
Better to learn it then when they're in their 20s and they lose the job.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming today. Before you take off, thank you. The website is mystembox.com. This is the most viral product in the world. Go out and talk about it.